It's B-roll, right? Okay. And then I'm going to have to manage the questions and comments. All right. It says we're streaming live. Happy Friday, everyone. Tim Sarrantonio is our special guest today. He's eating a sandwich. We're going to let him have a moment.
Say hello,
it's
everyone.
1 degree.
Yeah.
It's 1 degree where he is. I thought I could win. I thought I could win with my 5 degrees today. And I know Jim Wells is probably watching from Florida. He watches every week, tells me it's like 60 degrees or 70 degrees in Florida. Thank you so much. Maybe Josh is watching and he's going to tell me how warm it is in Florida too. Please don't. If you're in a warm place, don't tell me. But if
we don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear about that.
We don't want to hear it. But if you're in a cold place, tell me, and then we can commiserate. If you're
if you're
Chicago
less than 1 degree,
or upstate New York.
if you're less than 1 degree, then I want to hear it.
If you're less than 10 degrees, I do want to hear it. If you're more, that's basically the tropics, and I don't. Okay, so it looks, I can see us. I see us. So we definitely are live today. And you would think I would know how to do this. But I want to welcome all of my loyal Facebook Live watchers, my email subscribers. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming. We are in actually for a real treat today. And I want to thank you all for putting up with me through this entire launch, my course launch, Social Media for Social Good Academy. The doors close Monday morning. So if you want more information, socialgoodacademy.com. That's going to be your one-stop shop for all that information. What I don't want to happen, and what always happens, is for you to email me on Tuesday and say, I want to get in, and you will not be able to, I promise you. So make sure you check it out if you are interested in learning about it. And I'm only going to run it once this year. And honestly, that's not just a sales pitch. It's exhausting, and I'm only going to run it once this year. So, and I have a lot of other fun things to do.
Yeah. Well, and it's only the first like few months of the year. And if this is the only time it's going to happen this year, like,
I think
get it while it's cold.
On it. I know. So, right. I know. So there's a lot of fun things on tap this year, which I'm actually pretty excited about. Mm-hmm. So Emily says it's cold and windy in Maine today. Yes, we will definitely take Maine. Jim said, Jim Wells, I'm here. He won't tell me about the sun and the temperature. I know. Don't, because you always say it's sunny there. And then Emily says 9 degrees. We'll take it. Okay. Maine, awesome. Vermont, New York, Niskayuna, New York. We'll take it. But Rhode Island, maybe, perchance. I don't know how cold it is there.
I mean, Chicago can be pretty cold. That's where I lived before moving back to upstate New York. And you know, we were there when the snow closed down Lakeshore Drive and people abandoned their cars, and it looked like it was out of a movie.
TJ says Minnesota. We're in Minnesota, and I'm really sorry to do that. But you know what? Everyone, when I say I'm from Boston, says, park your car.
Lobster.
Harvard Yard. I get to say Minnesota.
It's wicked. It's wicked.
Ooh, Annette's from Minnesota. She says it's a heat wave of 21 degrees. Ooh. Okay, so we'll take that.
Break out the shorts.
I know, right? So just a little bit of a tangent, because most of my listeners and watchers and viewers know who I am. They know I have 2 kids. I have one daughter in middle school, and so she goes to school 2 days a week, and I drop her off because I'm a really nice mom. I was making her take the bus, and then I thought, this is insane. It's 9 degrees out and we have nothing to do, and like, why am I doing that? So I drive her the 2 days. She still takes the bus home, don't get me wrong, but the kids in shorts all the time with no coats, and I'm just like, okay, well, I forget what it was like to be 11 years old. All right. Well, we are excited that you're here with us today. The topic, how to use your nonprofit CRM to create a social media ambassador program. And I have Tim's bio, which I'm going to read, but then I want to talk about how Tim is just an incredible human and a really good friend of mine. But Tim is a team member at Neon One, and he has more than 10 years of experience working for and volunteering with nonprofits. He's raised over $3 million for various causes. Yes. Engage and enhance databases of all sizes, procured multiple successful grants, which we know is difficult, and formulated engaging communications and campaigns for several different nonprofits. I did not know you were a TEDx speaker, so I have to talk to you about that because that's kind of my goal this year.
Sure.
He was a TEDx speaker on technology and philanthropy and was named Nonprofit Pro's 2020 Technology Professional of the Year. So,
quite the surprise, actually. Yes, and I am a dad.
He's a dad of 3 girls who I have met. They are lovely, has a lovely house. Pepper is just waiting for her Wonder Woman dress.
That's for the potty training for Margaret, actually.
Oh, for Margaret. Oh, okay.
Yeah. And every time she goes to potty once, she goes, Wonder Woman dress. And I'm like, you did not earn that yet. No.
I have to be honest. Every time I have a Zoom call with you, I look to see if the Wonder Woman dress is there.
Well, and we do webinars. We do webinars, and every single webinar, I did this with my branding webinar earlier this week with Kimberly Rudd of Rudd Resources out in Chicago. And I pointed it because she's like, you got to talk about the Wonder Woman dress. And I'm like, that's for potty training. And it's been up since basically the beginning of the pandemic, almost a year. And I know that certain people who've watched my stuff, I know Kieran Johnson is I do have the comments on up on the side, by the way.
Oh,
so
good.
I can reference
it.
Hi,
Kieran.
But there's certain people that like come to our stuff and they know, oh, it's still up there. And I even was like, guess it, like what's the squares for Super Bowl? Like in terms of when you guess a quarter and a number and stuff like that. It's like, I want to do squares for when my kid actually like obtains the Wonder Woman dress for.
Yeah, we need to. I would participate in that.
Well,
when did we first meet, Tim?
Oh,
did we meet at N10?
I think it was in
NTC,
I
New
think
Orleans?
It was in person. I mean, I followed you on Twitter obviously for a while. I think that might have been one of the first times that we met when we did the New Orleans NTC.
Okay.
We'd have to check the timeline. For
and
that.
Tim, Neon One was a sponsor of the very first nonprofit social media summit that I held in Boston. Is that possible? That was 2019. I think that was August 2019. Is that yes, before the
because
SHIT
Neon One
hit the fan.
Yes, and Neon One. Yes, because Neon One as an entity, even though Neon One as the individual products that make us up have been around since the early 2000s, the legal entity and the initiative, as I like to call it, of Neon One kind of being that innovation, generosity ecosystem of products and processes coming together, right? Like that didn't start till 2018. And I know that the social media summit happened after that because I wanted to talk about our peer-to-peer fundraising product. And I wanted to talk about, and we even did a presentation on like Facebook fundraising that Homes for Our Troops did with us at your conference. And they didn't use our CRM. They used like Salesforce, which is great for organizations of a certain size, especially, but like I knew I was talking about multiple stuff by that point. And that's, it was 2019. Yeah.
Doesn't that, I don't know. Seems like a literal lifetime ago. Hoping to do the summit again when we can do things again in person. And also, I mean, I have to pat myself on the back. I was very, very honored to receive the award of Neon One's 2020 Partner of the Year. So that was amazing and remains pretty incredible. So
I gotta get. My plan is that there'll be like something tactile that will help represent that. But right now, the title is at least.
Yes. Oh no, my God, I love titles.
Well, we just went through a rebrand, so
What people don't know about Cancerians is that we might be. Well, we're homebodies, actually, which you would never think about me, but we crave constant Constant validation, constant validation. So any validation, I love it. But that one is particularly impressive. So thank you very much
well,
for that.
thank you. And I'm really excited for today's topic.
Yes. So let's dive in. How do you want to do this? You want to, I know you've got some slides and then we're going to have a discussion.
Yeah, I have some slides and working in nonprofit, we love titles. Yes, Karen.
Yes.
We do. So folks, I do have a small presentation. How many people actually?
I'm just going to hand it on over to Tim.
Yeah.
He's a Zoom pro.
How many people we got live right now? What do we
have 43 people live. Okay,
folks. So this is how I like to do things. I think that we're all kind of getting zoomed out after a bit, right? So let's make this, more interactive. I'm going to do a little bit of a table setting presentation, but I'm kind of obsessed in 2021 leaning into how do we create passive engagement into more active learning. Okay, so we gave a little bit of my bio, but the work that I do at Neon One is a lot of it's around research. A lot of it is also understanding technology and process trends in the market. And I feel like we're entering into, if we think about modern history of nonprofits, because, obviously charity, I have, the book on it right here, Philanthropy, going back all the way to Aristotle, this beast of a thing from the UK. That. But like, if you think about modern philanthropy, there's a lot of elements that have been around forever in terms of this is how you fundraise, this is how you communicate. Heck, the first, okay, Julia, and I'll pose this to the crowd too. Who originated, and then I'll focus it. It's a American U.S. citizen. Who originated the idea of a match grant?
A match grant?
Yes, it's which famous person actually came up with the idea of the match grant, where it's like, go to the public and we'll put out like that. If you donate money, then somebody's going to match it. Who came up with that? Does anybody know?
I'm going to guess Bill Gates.
Bill Gates. You are hilariously off. Does anybody have a guess? Go back a lot further than Bill Gates.
A lot further?
Yeah.
Carnegie?
You're getting there, but you aren't back enough. Andrew Carnegie. Okay. It was Benjamin Franklin.
Ooh.
Benjamin Franklin.
Adam says Vanderbilt. Hi, Adam.
Vanderbilt. Hello, Adam. So it was actually Benjamin Franklin. I'm reading a biography by Walter Isaac on him right now, and that was one of the tidbits that I found in that, where he did it for the Philadelphia's first hospital, their primary hospital, where he originated the idea of going to the public and saying, we have somebody who's going to match this. So there's a lot of elements of fundraising and communications that are just kind of even baked into the DNA of American society, obviously. But if you look at modern technology and modern trends, we've kind of since the 80s been in a rapidly shifting change in how people approach technology with practice. So 1981, Blackbaud is basically founded in Manhattan, New York City, by somebody putting out an ad and saying, I need a database for my private school. That's where, Blackbaud was formed as a company. So somebody built this, and that's kind of where Razor's Edge in many ways was born. And a lot of people still use that today. Yes, Benjamin Franklin created electricity and matching grants. Electrifying. It was electrifying. He was also really good at he was a printer, actually, in his stuff. I digress. Maybe we could talk about that later. So Blackbaud's kind of formed as the idea of like, let's organize our donor data beyond kind of like, writing people's names down on a note card, right? Mm-hmm. Like actually organizing it. Then you skip to early 2000s, and things start shifting into the cloud, into the ability to access your database anywhere. Because the core idea of I have a database was revolutionary, but I had to physically be in a location to access that. In fact, this impacted one of the jobs that I first had, where the founder actually of an organization that I worked at right before I got hired, one of the co-founders walked out of the the organization's office with the database and all the donors with it, because they had a schism between the two founders. They had an argument, and one of them was like, "F you, I'm out of here."
Oh,
They took the
no.
donor data,
Yeah.
like
That's
physically.
awful.
So by moving things into the cloud, then you had a little bit more security, actually. Well, to a certain extent, depending on the situation, but you'd be able to access things and think about how this also matches the ways that we communicate with each other, right? Like, what, Julia, if it was the 80s, how would you contact one of your friends?
I'd call them on the phone.
The phone, and not this phone.
Nope, on a landline.
On a landline. Hello, Sarrantonio
I'd write them a
residents.
note and put it in their locker. I mean,
Yeah.
if it was the 80s, but yes.
Or you'd use the, like.
Oh yeah, the little square thing.
Little
I love that.
thing.
What is that called? Literally 10 points to Gryffindor for whoever can tell me what that thing is called.
If you remember the little, like the
My daughter actually was doing that one time, and I like left my body. I was like, oh my God, are they still doing that? They are. They're still doing that.
So, or payphone. Yes. Or payphone.
Payphone.
That's a good one. Or beeper. There was beepers for a bit. I remember I tried to call someone once on a beeper, and my parents yelled at me because they're like, somebody called and they don't know who called them, right? Like I just didn't understand it. I'm not a doctor.
I don't understand beepers.
I'm not on Grey's Anatomy. I don't get it. So
I think we missed it. Our generation missed it.
I think we missed the beeper, but
missed it.
But so technologically, like
Fortune, cootie catcher. Love it.
Yeah, that the cootie catcher, all that type of stuff, Fortune. So the thing is that, like, the reason I'm bringing these things up is that nonprofit and larger society trends in communication and organization of how we interact with each other, they're kind of parallel, but many times the nonprofit industry is a little bit behind things too. And so we shifted into the early 2000s in terms of, like, I'm going to have something and I can access it a little bit more freely anywhere. And I also have more options to communicate with people. I might be using constant contact for email. I might be, and then Facebook was eventually founded, and then we start seeing an acceleration. And so what's happening now is that we're entering into the third wave in technological innovation, where the CRM is now part of a larger set of things that people can think about. So what I want to do is walk through. And
I'm going to give people the slides, right?
Yeah, I'll give you that after. So let me go ahead and kind of, do this formally. Can you see the slides? Can you?
Yep.
Can you
I'm just going to mute myself so I don't inadvertently.
This won't be long, folks, because hubby got a beeper when I was expecting. Exactly. And I'll put this. I'll make sure that Julia can put this into the chat. This is not going to be behind a paywall. You'll be able to access this for free and download the PDF or click around as a view. So basically, I want us to think about a few key things when it comes to social ambassadors and CRM, because again, we're entering into that finally there's an element where things could, okay, good, she just did it. So you'll be able to, like, overlay these two things, because I think even if we go back 3 years ago, that they're still kind of like siloed, and people are thinking of these things as like, well, there's my CRM or constituent relationship database, donor database, whatever you want to call it, and there's my social media strategy, right? And we are now able to see how these things can start to interact. So the learning objectives that I want to cover today, and I want this to be conversational. If you have questions, if you have objections, I don't think that's right, or I need clarification, let's do it. Let's have a conversation. But really to kind of even define, what do we mean by social ambassador program for social media? Why is this something that you should invest time into? It's not that this appears overnight, right? Julia knows that. All of you know that. And then what exactly is a CRM? I know that there's a lot of people who might assume, oh, of course, of course we know what a CRM is. And I want to talk about how to think about it. And I want to do it in a way that has nothing to do with my company's product, by the way. Okay. So this is something that, like, you can apply no matter what you're using. No matter what, but it's an important investment. That's the only point I want to make, is that this is something that these are two things that you can invest in, and I don't care ultimately where you do it, as long as you're doing something that's going to help you grow, because the intersection of them, typically there's like very little data on this. I was even trying to find some data relating to conversion elements around this, and there's just not a lot even in the for-profit world about how people are thinking about social media's interaction with your CRM. And some of that is warranted from a strategic standpoint, but in other ways it's like, well, I think that we're again in that third wave of evolution, and we have to talk about it specifically from the nonprofit and social good point of view. So even if I start referencing data from the for-profit world, because a lot of that's where we can obtain some insights, tactically we need to think about things from our jobs, not like what Coca-Cola is doing. Okay. And then finally is also what the pitfalls should be. And this is the one where we would shift into making sure that, hey, ask questions. Julie and I are going to have a conversation and just kind of take it where we go. But the first thing that this is one of the reasons I want you to get the slides for free, is this is a useful framework for whenever you're rolling out any new type of program, or to even walk back and say, where am I as a nonprofit? So this is adapted from the TCC group, as well as John Brothers, who wrote an amazing book, Building Nonprofit Capacity. I love this book, and this is what we're training people internally to think about when I'm talking to a nonprofit. Where are they in their journey, right? Think about it this way. If you ask yourself, I might be a growing or adolescent organization, but I'm going to roll out a new program. That doesn't automatically mean that program, such as a peer-to-peer fundraising program or a live stream, gamer engagement program, is mature. Even mature organizations, when they roll out new initiatives, they have to start somewhere and they need to build on that. So you can use this for your organization. You can use this for this framework for just individual program analysis. But overall, you should always ask yourself, does this align with my mission? How is this being done in a meaningful way to support my organization's long-term growth? And how do you actually make decisions about implementing things no matter what? You can ask this wherever and whatever stage you are. So if your board brings you, hey, TikTok, what are we doing with TikTok? Well, let's ask some core questions before we shift into the planning on that. And then getting into
sorry, can I add to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think that is something that I know people are struggling with, nonprofits are struggling with. So I'm not literally trying to plug the academy, but this is what I teach inside the academy and also with my clients, is how to navigate where you are, your capacity and your budget and your resources versus where you want to go, but also how to have a framework to answer those questions, Tim, like you just said.
Yes.
How to answer the question, oh, well, my niece says we need to be on Snapchat, so let's look at Snapchat. And then you at least have a lens to look through where you can say, okay, well, we're going to be strategic about this. We're not just going to jump on every little shiny new tool. So and I think this is fabulous.
And this is the reality of how in all honesty, I think the industry is broken on the tech vendor side, is that they kind of are, they try to answer the question immediately for you. They say, well, our tool does that. And it's like, well, is that the thing that I need right now to actually grow? And then the second part that we try to do is we lean on people like you, Julia, to help round that guidance out. That we check our ego and say, yes, you know what? We think that we do a lot of great stuff, and we've helped over 35,000 organizations raise $2.9 billion in 2020, right? Like, cool. But Julia, that's an impressive number that my CEO likes to hear. But the reality is that like number 3 is what you as a nonprofit care about. You don't care about the press release number. You care about what your trailing 12-month growth is now that we're hitting, my God, almost into March, a year into the pandemic.
Ooh, and I'm going to post your blog post for the 4 ways technology can help donor retention.
Ah, yes, I'm always all about donor retention. So this is how I want us to think about any type of new program, but shifting into, you know, the social ambassador item. And in all honesty, the definition, literally, the why is from a Medium blog post that you did, Julie. I just copy and pasted it. So we're getting it from the expert here. But, you know, if you look into how to create this type of program, a social media ambassador program is not a social media strategy. This is infinitely different. This is creating champions who can carry the torch for you when you are not involved. Think of it like, you know, we've always heard about board members hosting those parties at their house, right? Like kind of that type of engagement, like the small intimate party that a board member might host. This is the social media version of that, where they can host interactions, engagements, excitement, even potentially events around social media as the primary channel of engagement and communication. And so a lot of this, Julia, why don't you tag in here on why this is important, actually? And please, yes, start to ask me questions.
Yes, I think that we overestimate how important our nonprofit is and how important 60 years in the community, and we've got all the awards and we've got the plaques, and that kind of social proof is valuable to older generations for sure. I do see that being valuable. You've been around, you've got the credentials, my family supported you for generations. But especially with younger generations and even with Gen X, I really don't see that as being as impactful. And what I've been seeing a lot more, even just in my day-to-day, not even with my clients, in my actual personal life, people coming to me and asking me for recommendations, especially around year end, saying, where can I really make the most impact? Because we have to remember, we live fundraising day in, day out. We live technology, we live marketing, we live our mission. But the average person goes about their job and they might not even think about philanthropy, and they're not bad people. They just don't know where to start. So if we can create this social media ambassador ecosystem, which I love to say, or a program where we can identify the best advocates and champions for our cause, the people that have influence, even if it's just a 2 to 3 people, that is eminently more impactful and effective than us simply sharing our message over and over again.
And Karen asked a great question. Best way to recruit the ambassadors. Sorry I missed the beginning of this live.
Ooh, I think you're going to talk about it.
I think I'm about to talk about this. Karen, we're actually just telling people why this even matters in the first place. So
she's like, get into it.
Get to the point, right? So one of the ways that you can recruit people is definitely using your CRM. And who should we recruit? Okay, so folks, we are now in the thick of it. We are going to get into recruitment strategy.
Yes.
That is really what I want to zero in on, and we can get to brass tacks. So again, I made slides. I gave you the slides for free. Download the slides when you want them. Look at them. I don't care if you download them, but they have great resources in here. If you don't have a CRM, get a CRM. I don't care if it's Neon CRM, get Bloomerang, get Donor Perfect, get Virtuous, whatever you trust. I trust us. Obviously, I use it. Heck, my mother-in-law just bought it for her food pantry. Okay, over in the Fall River area, actually, Julia. So I obviously trust it because I'm going to hear the end of it if it doesn't work out for her. Right. So the CRM, though, is the idea that you are going to get insight into a person's behavior and relationship with you. This is not a Excel spreadsheet. This is not QuickBooks. This is your ability to track interactions and streamline and standardize your gift acceptance, gift management, and beyond. It's email, it's social media, it's saving you time. Implementation of a CRM is going to save you infinitely a lot of time. Now, the reason that this gets into kind of some benchmark items is how do these two start to overlay? A lot of it is when people were actually even, and this is from kind of the Content Marketing Institute. great stuff. I love the content that they have. But this was about kind of business to consumer opinions on kind of where that fits in your role. So when we say consumer in this case, think of this as like how to approach your donors with your marketing, and especially social media in particular. And so what we're trying to do is create that credibility and trust. Kind of Julia's been hammering
like, and
home.
trust. The know, like, and trust. I talk about it all the time.
And what is it? The
KLT.
The Edelman study that just came out?
Oh, how 50% of Americans trust nonprofits to do the right thing.
Yeah.
50%.
That
means 50% don't.
So what we need to do is create people who were bought in and champions into our causes and empower them with the right tools to do that. So what this is people who are asking, how do I find them and how do I recruit them? This is the slide that will give you the basics. We're going to then shift into like the tactical elements of actually implementing it. So this is in terms of like, I need to know where to start. This is the slide for you.
Like where to look for them.
This is where to look. This is how to look. I'm going to give you some strategies on that, and I want to continue to follow the chat in the 15 minutes that we have left to kind of unpack this.
It's okay.
Right?
We can go a little bit longer if you have time. I know it's lunchtime for the twins.
Well, no, they're watching Magic School Bus rides again. We're good. So first and foremost, you need the right tools to start with. Your constituent relationship management system is going to have the people who are already bought in. All right, this is a big thing. It costs $1.25 to acquire $1 for your organization. This is based off of research by Adrian Sargent, who's one of the foremost experts in retention in the world. Okay, and so that's a terrifying number. That means that out of the gate, you're already losing money, right? Because you spent $1.25 to get $1 into your organization. So the CRM is the people who should be already bought into your mission. And this is also why we talk so much about retention, and the retention article that Julia posted there is the ability for you to come back and say, you trust us again. That's all retention is. Retention is you trust us again, year over year. You trust us again. You trust us again. Okay. And so if you're trying to figure out who do I find for my social media ambassador program, I'm going to give you a clue. It's people who already trust you. But what you do is establish your goals for the program. Go back to that slide of the capacity growth framework. Go to Julia's course and establish goals. What is the behavior that you are trying to change for your donors through the ambassador program? Well, I want people to like us more and I want more donations. Okay, good. That's an output. But why is the social media ambassador program itself going to do that? Well, that's because if we know that social media ambassadors are people who are seen as trustworthy individuals in their networks, then that is how we're going to grow that trust. It's one of the tools in order to not only maintain trust, but to grow trust. That is why a social media ambassador program is good. But you should set some key performance indicators on that. Don't just say, oh, I want people to like us more. And don't even focus necessarily on the vanity metrics of number of likes or things like that. Focus on reasonable things like, if we launch the program, how many ambassadors do we have? And in turn, those ambassadors, how many meaningful conversations are they having with their network? Are they actually entering into a conversation about the organization, and then turn it into things that connect to growth? Are these conversations driving people to sign up for our newsletter? Can we attribute it to the network? And then in turn, are we seeing donations come in? In all honesty, the social media ambassador program, money should be like one of the last items, because money will flow organically if you've done everything else right. So then, though, on the money piece, make sure that, especially if it's social media, people can donate online. And do it in a way that's not PayPal, please. The bounce rate for PayPal donations is massive. But for instance, our peer-to-peer platform that, Michael J. Fox Foundation uses, Sesame Workshop, Oregon Humane Society. It has a conversion rate that somebody goes to the page of 45%. That means that half the time somebody even visits a page for our peer-to-peer fundraising, they're going to donate. It's 23% higher than the M&R benchmark, right? So get something that works.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying there.
Yes.
Would staff be good ambassadors, or are they too close to the organization? I mean, Karen, that's a really interesting question. I think that you're already asking staff to do a lot, right? And the ambassador item is, and if it's like, I think they could be, because we had an ambassador program for our rebrand where I recruited partners like Julia to be like, hey, like, help us talk about the fact that we rebranded. We're seeing the fruits of that, in all honesty. I'm here partially because like I was like, let's talk more. I would love to be on a Facebook Live, right? But our staff also dove in and created that ambassadorship too. So I think staff can be, as long as you're not asking them to do anything that's above and beyond their roles that is unreasonable. I think a lot more powerful ambassador program is one drawn from your supporters. So that's how you start to define your target audience. That's step 2 here, right? Which is defining who the best ambassadors are going to be, and then in turn, who do you want them talking to? Now, you can start with people who are already bought in, like peer-to-peer fundraisers, or like team captains are very natural places to start without having to use your CRM necessarily to go like, oh, how do I find these people? But what you could do is say, let me create a persona of like 2 to 3 different types of ambassadors. Mm-hmm. It could be based off of age. Maybe you want somebody who's active on social media, but is a Generation X person. Maybe you do want somebody who like understands how the hell TikTok works and isn't 39 and just wants a newsletter describing all the best TikToks on a monthly basis. You know, that they're actually in there and they're actually really living that community, or this is how video game live streaming communities are starting to come up. Like, define again your goals and then have the persona match that, and then you start to target. And that's where the CRM comes into play, is who fits that. Search the database for that persona. Do they live in a certain geographic location? Well, I don't have that information. Well, okay, maybe you should think about data appends. 2, how can you acquire information necessary in order to fill this out? 3, if you don't have anything, you got gifts. Who's giving you the most money? Who keeps giving to you year over year? They're bought in. Who has a high retention rate? Who's giving you a monthly gift? Who's a peer-to-peer fundraiser? Start there. Mm-hmm. You create a recruitment list, and then you got to have everything ready for them to make it a pleasant experience. And so, remind me where the slide.
Look at your monthly donors. Please look at your monthly donors.
Yeah.
I'm a monthly donor to several organizations. And one actually reached out to me, my favorite, Amira. I mean, I talk about them all the time. I love them. Amira Incorporated. They actually reached out to me and said, oh, we see you've been a monthly donor for about 6 months now. We're doing a storytelling campaign. I don't know if they know who I am, or they certainly didn't say like, we know you're like a consultant or whatever. They just said, oh, we're so thankful for your support, and we'd really like to reach a bunch of new people this year. We're trying to expand our reach and awareness.
Yep.
Would you be a social media ambassador? And
yes.
Obviously I signed up in a heartbeat. So,
and exactly, you need people already passionate and invested in your cause. And
yeah,
so
because I could talk to why I love them, and you know,
and when we're doing product, because we have an internal process in terms of like what we're going to prioritize, right? And a lot of companies, they just go by like what they think clients will want, what they think people want. Yeah. And what we've learned is that our VP of Tech Strategy says anecdotal evidence is the least useful piece of data for me. Okay. And so a lot of times you hear these stories all the time where it's like, and the little old librarian died and left $3 million to the
It happens once in
organization.
a generation.
And one, it was once in a generation, and two, rightfully pointed out by Steve McLaughlin of Blackbaud when he talked about that, is like, if you look in their database, that woman's been giving pretty consistently for about 17 years to the organization.
Oh my God. And they didn't know?
No, they just say, oh, where did this person come from? If you ask yourself, where did this person come from? Look at the data, please. Go look at the data. And so this is where we get the overlay, because everything I'm describing could be you recruiting a new board member, right? The social media ambassador element actually comes with the channel that you're trying to articulate. Everything I've talked about for CRM, you can use this in a bunch of different stuff. Where it gets very powerful is when you actually adapt it and invest it toward a social media ambassador specific goal. So Julia,
yes.
How about, this is your expertise. I'd like to actually talk to you.
This.
I want to hear you talk about like what goes into recruiting somebody. So when you got recruited, for instance, what are they giving you? What's a good thing that you can give to say, it's not that you're saying, can you support us or be on our board or join our junior board? When somebody says, I want you to join our social media ambassador program, what does that actually mean?
Okay. So I, by the way, have saved all of their emails, all of their social media, everything, so that I can do a case study when I have the time, because it was very, very well thought out. Now, Amira is a small organization. They're tiny. They serve New England. I think they might have like 10 full-time staff people.
Yeah.
And they serve women and children and men. They prevent sexual exploitation. That's what they're trying to do. So they have a shelter, they have support groups, they do a lot of awareness. And when they approached me, it was a personal email. So that was what first caught my eye. It wasn't like cut and paste. It was very much like, hi, Julia, I've noticed that you're a monthly donor and you're very engaged. I'd love to tell you more about our upcoming fundraising campaign and recruit you as a social media ambassador. Yes or no? So it wasn't just like telling me everything in the first email.
Yes.
I said, yes. So then they sent the second email. They sent me my marching orders every week. So the campaign was only 4 weeks long. And every Monday they sent me an email and they had all of the posts queued up. They didn't have a ton of posts. They had like an Instagram story. They were primarily focused on Instagram, right? So they had an Instagram story, an Instagram feed post, and then some copy, and then a story that they were trying to promote. So it wasn't overwhelming, and it was very focused. And it was, these are your marching orders for the week. And you know, I have to admit, I didn't do it all 4 weeks because things happen, but I tried to. I honestly would save the emails and bookmark them and try to do my best, because it was just so clearly laid out. But the other thing that I loved about it wasn't just telling me what to do. It was really saying, this is the impact it's going to make. And
yes,
this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to raise $50,000 to build a new shelter. This is the impact you're going to have. I mean, it was really well thought out.
Yep.
So I think that it doesn't have to be very complicated. There were no videos. I didn't have to make a video. It wasn't an Instagram takeover. I mean, it was really pretty basic, but it was still very impactful.
And the key element here that's always missing, I feel, from social media conversations is that it's then going back here at the end, and how does that relate to the goals that you've established in the first place? What is the conversion of that effort? Because if you come back and you know, a savvy person, and even somebody who's not even a social media, you know, expert, but they just like talking to people on social media, for instance. So don't just assume they have to be a social media expert. They just might be relatively active on social media in a way that's meaningful. And so, and somebody's asking you if you're going to reply.
Oh,
okay,
cool.
So the thing is that like somebody might be like, hey, is this like, why am I doing this? Like, why do you want me to do this? Like, what is this going to help for? You go back and you report back. You have, you know, at the end of a campaign, you might have a meeting.
That would be great. I would love to see that. Like everyone, well, what I always recommend to my clients is if you have a handful, like if you have 100 social media ambassadors, that might be harder to do, but to create a community. So actually another example is the Massachusetts Conference for Women, which I have my water bottle, obsessed with that conference. They have a social media street team.
Yeah.
And we are all, a lot of us are consultants, a lot of us are business owners, and they create such a great community for us. We get our own room. We get our own like green room at the conference, like a little conference room where we can charge our phones and charge our stuff. And well, when we can actually do it in person, we can talk to each other.
Yeah.
They encourage us to like connect on LinkedIn. They encourage us to promote each other's businesses. So I think that might not be something that makes sense for a lot of nonprofits, but
you could still build the
community. Yeah.
It's the community that makes sense for nonprofits, is that when you're building these audiences, you then have to make sure that you're not approaching this like it's a siloed approach. Right. We're seeing, for instance, a very high increase in the number of giving circles that donors are creating. And there's a high social element to that where they're pooling their money together and working together. And what you're trying to do is funnel that energy from something like social media toward your organization. And so creating that community where they're able to even potentially interact with each other, or they get exclusive content. Mm-hmm. They get, to be able to talk with program participants in an appropriate, setting and time and things like that. Like, think about the experience, and you should be thinking about these things no matter what type of donor program, what type of member program, what type of experience or event that you're doing. Mm-hmm. But if you tie it back to the things that I mentioned in the very beginning in terms of like where you are in your journey and the questions that you're asking, this is going to be successful. So I know, with an eye on the time, Julia,
yes.
I want to point out that there's also some other insights why you need ambassadors. So it's like, cool, Tim, sounds like a great idea. I got to go sell people on that. Well, talk to Julia, and not even talk to Julia, read Julia's stuff, buy Julia's book.
Oh, that's sweet.
The donor's journey, I actually wrote a blog for Pamela Grow on like overviewing like what is and how do you create donor personas. And then if you're also trying to figure out how to buy a CRM, we've helped 6,000 plus organizations, utilize our software. Respiratory Health Alliance, American Forests, a lot of great organizations, a lot of great Ullman Foundation, a lot of great organizations using it. But we created a little checklist if you're trying to be like, hey, I don't even know what to do here. And I got a little quote from Woodrow from Giving Tuesday up there in terms of like, all of this is backed by data. That's the whole point. That's the whole point.
Oh, Kieran, happy customer here.
Well, Kieran's so great that I'm actually inviting him to our internal sales kickoff meeting next week.
Yay.
To talk about his story, because that's important to us. We want to hear what people are doing. And I'm not going to spoil it, but I got something special in store for him next week, actually, as a thank you.
I want to see.
Not going to spoil it. But yeah, so how about I go ahead and just kind of stop.
Is this the last slide?
Yeah, that's it.
So I think I've written down a page of notes, and I'm sorry, my headphones.
Well, I'm going to write the blog for you.
My daughter uses my headphones, and
that's all right. I'm going to write a blog on this for you too. So.
Yes, do that. I have been completely refocusing my focus and my business towards social media that converts. So it's like Seth Godin says, and I always have to quote Seth Godin, awareness is great. I'm aware that turnips are a root vegetable. That doesn't mean I'm going to pick turnips to eat for dinner, right? I'm aware, doesn't mean I'm going to pick them. So how can we turn awareness into conversions? And I think what a CRM does, but what a more strategic social media plan does when it fits in with an ecosystem is you're not going to turn 100% of your Facebook fans into email subscribers or donors. No. That's never going to happen. Man, I wish I could turn 100% of my Facebook fans into customers. It's not going to happen. But you can be strategic in the ways that you are leveraging social media, which we know is rented land. We know it's rented land. We don't control it.
Yeah.
And I mean, now I'm reading, actually, this is very interesting for the nonprofits that are dealing with any kind of political, social, even environmental issue. Facebook might be permanently banning those kinds of ads or making it really hard to jump through hoops to get your content out to your particular audience. So we rely on social media to like cast a wide net.
It's a moving target.
We cast a wide net, but we need to bring those fish into a more strategic platform where we can nurture them and cultivate them.
The CRM is great if you find it difficult to drive it toward that. Things like peer-to-peer fundraising platforms help as an entry point there. Giving days in your community is another good entry point too. We run some of those. Brian, for instance, if you want to, I can get you the checklist or something, or you could talk to me for free.
Yeah, I would put just the link in the comments and people can check out the checklist.
I'll go back and do it. I gotta make sure I'm in the, I'm in the right profile. Basically, I got off of Facebook in all honesty. And
right. Okay. Well, I'll do it.
You can do that. There's a checklist, but yeah. So Tim at neon1.com. If you want to throw my email in there, Julia, go ahead.
Yes.
That's fine. Reach out to me. I can make sure that I can help. I'm here to help. Again, if you're just like, Tim, I don't care. I don't want you to sell me anything. Just talk.
Tim is not going to sell you on anything. Although he is an amazing salesperson, but he's just a really great resource. I think Tim gives away so much amazing free knowledge. And what I love personally, and this is not a sales pitch for Neon One in any way, but the only companies that I partner with are companies that have the best interests of nonprofits at heart. And, if you know me, I only have the best interests of nonprofits at heart. So,
and in turn, that's why we love working with you.
Thank you.
I love you.
It's just a love fest here today, which I need on this cold Friday.
I know. Folks, and I know Julia's got to get ready for something
I have to get my daughter onto her voice lesson.
But we are also going to be hosting a special, I'm going to write a blog on this stuff, okay? I'll put a bunch of resources in there. It's going to go on Julia's stuff, so it's trusted. And then the other thing is that Julia and I are actually going to be hosting on St. Patrick's Day, folks.
St. Patrick's Day. Can we drink beer? What time is it?
Yes, it's going to be 2, but we'll just do it anyway. So
okay, we'll do it. I've got all St. Patrick's Day gear. Is that okay? Green.
No, we're going.
I'm Irish, so I feel like I can do it.
We're going all in. We're going to be talking about Facebook fundraisers, and so we are going to be rolling out a new feature for peer-to-peer to sync and get that information into the platform and into the CRM eventually too. Doesn't matter if you're using us, Salesforce, I'm working on a Microsoft integration, for goodness sakes. You got to get that Facebook data somehow. So we're going to talk about that in March on St. Patrick's Day. So watch.
I'm so excited for that. That's going to be here before you know it. Well, awesome. Okay. So you already told us where we can find you, Tim at neon1.com. Yep. I'm putting that. We've got the slides.
And you can go to neon1.com. We got tons of resources. We did a branding workshop.
A lot of webinars. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. We're going to do, I just locked in a great 2 recurring donation webinars in March. We got
Erica Wasdorp, who?
Yep.
Of course.
Her and Fundraise Up. We're partnering with Fundraise Up too. We just got off that. And then,
I love them.
Yeah, they're great. Nick is great. And then also next month is peer-to-peer fundraising on a giving day. And then it's with Sarah Willie, actually.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I love Sarah Willie. It's one of my favorite people.
Yeah. So we got so much good stuff. It's acquisition for the first 6 months, and then we're going to pivot hard to retention, folks. You got to retain, be experimental for the first 6 months, and then you got to lock it down and go, okay, we got to get the people who should be giving to us June, July onward. So
I love it. Well, thank you. Thanks so much for being here, Tim.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right. So everyone, you have all the information in the comments.
I finished my sandwich.
And yeah. Oh, I just got fundraise up based on Julia's recommendation. They rock. Yeah, they are.
We have a
pretty
CRM
awesome.
integration. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, they are really great for those mobile donations. Yeah, I can't even
We're
tell
going to
you. We
focus
need
it
to
on
have like a
recurring gifts.
we need to I want to have like a virtual exhibit hall.
You should.
I don't know. I
You
know.
should.
Well, I've got a lot
I
of
got some.
ideas. I've got
I
a
got
lot of
thoughts.
ideas
But you
actually
got to
just
get your
from
daughter
this.
somewhere. So I'm going to.
Well, not really physically. I just got to get her on Zoom because heaven forbid anyone can do anything. But
Well, you can't do that if you're talking to me. So.
all right. Well, enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Thank you so much. Bye.
It's the obligatory wave at the end of a meeting, folks. Have a great day.
Bye.